Hey folks, welcome back to Algebra 2. Today we're going to be focusing on operations with complex numbers. So we're going to be adding them, subtracting them, multiplying them, or raising them to powers. Your textbook also talks about dividing them and talks about something called the conjugate. Again, we've talked about this before. The textbook is somewhat on the older side, and the conjugate just isn't a part of the current New York Algebra 2 curriculum. So we're going to skip that part. If you read it, that's not a terrible thing because the conjugate sometimes pops up on the SAT. So we're going to first talk about adding and subtracting. We got a couple of examples there. Then we're going to talk about multiplying. It's going to be really similar to how we did it with binomials. And we're then going to talk about raising it to a power. Again, something really similar to binomials. So let's get into it. So we're going to take a look at adding and subtracting complex numbers first. And we're going to do that by looking here. So adding complex numbers, and we have our two complex numbers here. This is one, and then this is the other. They're really similar looking. They both have a real part with a -3. In fact, they both have a -3. And they have an imaginary part. So our first step is just going to be to rewrite them without the parentheses and treat them as if they're anything else before we even heard complex numbers were a thing. So -3 plus 7i minus 3 minus 8i. And then we can just treat them like terms. So I got some like terms there, I got some like terms here, and I'm just going to combine my like terms together. The -3, the -3 just become a -6. The positive 7i, the -8i just become -i. You can put -1i, that's fine. So we're done with this one. We got it. It's completely done. Now, the subtracting complex numbers, really similar. The only thing is you need to distribute this negative. If you don't forget to distribute that negative, you're going to get it wrong. So -11 plus 8i minus the 9 minus the 5i. Then we're just going to do the same thing. I'm going to combine all of my real numbers here. I'm going to combine all of my imaginary numbers. And then I'm just going to rewrite it as one number. The -11, the -9 is going to be -20. The 8i, the -5i is just going to be positive 3i. And that one's totally done. Now, this last one, you have to distribute the negative. Cool, sorry about my little typo here. And in doing it, you're going to get this plus 2 plus 4i. And when you combine the terms, you're going to notice, well, wait a second, I got a -2, I got a positive 2, that's just going to be 0. And that's totally okay, it happens. With these two, you're going to get a -2i. So that is our final answer, and you're done. If it tells you to put it in a plus bi form, you would write this. If it tells you the simplest form, you can just write -2i. So we talked about adding and subtracting complex numbers. Let's talk about multiplying them now. And you can probably already tell that this is going to be really similar to box method, area method, FOIL, whichever way you want to do it, it's going to be really similar. I'm going to do this with FOIL. So I'm going to do my front, then my outer, then my inner, then my last. So my front is just going to be 88. My outer is going to be minus 110i. My inner is going to be minus 72i. And my last are going to be 90i squared. So we can combine some like terms here, same as we always would. So we're going to have 88 minus 182i plus 90i squared. Well, the nice thing is 90i squared is just -90 because I squared is -1. So I'm going to have 182i and 88. Well, then I got my two whole numbers here. These are my like terms. I can combine them together, so I just have -2 minus 182i. That would be my final answer. So notice we only have I, we don't have I squared in any of our final answers. You're always asked to write it in A plus BI form. That does not have any I squared. So second one, going to do the exact same way, just so you see another one. I'm going to do my front, so I'm going to get 66 my outer, so I'm going to get negative 77i. My inner, so I'm going to get positive 30i, negative 30i. And my last one, so I'm going to get positive 35i squared. If you're wondering, hey, can I just make the I squared a negative 1 now? You totally can. In fact, let's do it. So I'm getting negative 35. Everything else is going to stay the exact same. And then we got our like terms here. We got our like terms here. Let's just combine them and get our final answer. So our final answer for these is just going to be 31. That's going to be our real part. And then our final answer for the other is going to be minus 107i. And that's it. Now, what do we do if they're not just multiplying each other? What happens if they're raised to a power? This one is clearly raised to a power. Remember, if it's raised to a power, it means that it's 3 plus I times 3 plus I times 3 plus I. This is a 3, so it's done 3 times. Well, I can do these the same way that we just did the other ones. That's going to be 9, I'm just doing FOIL here, plus 3i plus 3i plus I squared times 3 plus I. Well, I can combine everything in that orange one to make my life a bit easier. That's going to be 9 plus 6i minus 1, which means it's going to be 8 plus 6i. And then don't forget to bring down the 3 plus I each time. Last but not least, we can just multiply this one up by FOIL too. It's FOIL-tastic. That's not a word, don't use that in an English class. So we're going to have 24 plus 8i plus 18i plus 6i squared. So that means we're going to have 24 plus 26i minus 6. So that means you're going to have 18 plus 26i. And that would be our final answer. These are a bit longer than the other ones, so you only got to do 3 instead of 5. Awesome, you've seen how to do it all. Now you're going to do your summary and your reading check. They're both just in Google Forms. You're not going to have to do a Flipgrid or writing assignment for this one. I'm going to try to alternate every other week just to make it fair. So head on over to Delta Math, complete those 3 sections, and then do your summary and your reading survey. Don't forget, you can do the reading survey as many times as you want to get full credit. Some of you are still just doing it once going, I give up. No, do it the full time, that way you get it. Also, don't forget to do it because the reading survey and the summary together are 20% of your grade. Have a great day, folks. A wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll talk at you soon.